In the last video, I pointed Claude Code at this repo and it figured the whole thing out. No setup, no explanation. It was impressive. But here's the problem. Tomorrow I open it again and it knows nothing. Blank slate. It relearns my entire project from scratch every single session. But there is one file that fixes this. You write it once, and from then on, Claude Code starts every session already understanding your code base. It is the single highest leverage thing you can add to any project, and most people either skip it or fill it with junk that makes Claude Code worse. This file is called Claude.md. By the end of this video, you will write a good one. For this exact repo, let's start with what it actually is. Remember the loop from the last video? Gather, act, verify. Claude.md is the gathered step, done once in advance, and it is permanent. It is just a plain markdown file sitting at the root of your repo, nothing fancy, but Claude Code reads it at the start of every session before you type a single word. So instead of explaining your project again and again, you write it once. The stack, the conventions, the decisions, the traps, and every new session starts informed instead of blank. Hold on to one thing because it matters later. This file is context, not configuration. Claude reads it and tries to follow it. It is not a hard rule, it is forced to obey. Keep that in your back pocket. Done right, Claude Code stops feeling like a stranger and starts feeling like a senior engineer who has worked on your team for a year. So the whole game is one question. What do you put in it? So what belongs in it? Simple test. Things are true every single time you touch this repo. The build and run commands, the conventions you follow, architecture decisions, and the gotchas. The traps that would bite a new developer on day one. Here is the real part people miss. Write down the why. In my repo, one rule says amount is decimal, never a float, because money must not have rounding errors. That word, because that is the whole point. Claude cannot read that reason out of code, but once it is written down, Claude respects it. Now, what does not belong? Anything that is only true for today's task. Secrets and API keys, obviously never. And do not paste your whole code base in here. Claude can already read that code. And there is a size rule straight from the docs. Target under 200 lines. That is a documented number, not a vibe. This file loads every session, so it spends your context budget, and bloated files actually get followed less. Quick reminder, Claude Code ships fast, so always check the current docs. But that 200 line target has been rock solid. So bigger is not better. A tight 100 line file beats a rambling 400 line one every time. And when it genuinely outgrows 200 lines, there is a real answer. That is the next video. Here is the one writing habit that separates a Claude.md that works from Claude quietly ignores. Write rules, don't narrate. What's the difference? Format code properly is useless. Use two-spaced indentation works. Test your changes is way, but run npm test before committing works. Keep files organized means nothing. API handlers live in src/api/handlers works. See the pattern? The good ones are specific and you can verify them. The bad ones are just vibes. And here's the rule underneath it all. If you cannot verify an instruction, Claude cannot reliably follow it. So be concrete. Give exact commands, exact paths, exact rules. Vague instructions feel done, but they change nothing. Alright, enough theory. Let's open the terminal and have Claude write one of these from scratch and then make it good. This repo already has a Claude.md. I wrote it by hand over a few sessions. But I don't want to just show you a finished file and say copy this. I want you to see the gap. So I'm moving mine out of the way and starting from nothing. So let me run this command. Now there is no Claude.md, and let's see what Claude Code gives us out of the box. So let me launch my Claude Code terminal. Okay, so the command is /init. It tells Claude Code to look around this project and write a Claude.md for it. And watch, it's not guessing, it's reading those files. It is reading this readme.md file which we have, and it is also reading a couple of other files, and it will work out that it is a Django project. As we can see, it is now reading views.py, and let's give it some time and see what it does. So now here we can see that it now has a complete picture and it is writing the Claude.md. Let us give few more minutes more. Asking me for permissions, whether it can create this Claude.md file or not. I will give yes. I want you to create the file. And in around 1 minute 20 seconds, it's honestly not bad at all. So if you look at it, it got the stack right, which is Django and SQLite based, and we are focusing on API first. And if we see, it got the run command also right, which is used to set up this application. And then if I scroll down a bit, it has covered the tests and the migrations as well, and it covered the architecture, what we are doing, the per user isolation, how is it covered so that a user cannot see other users' expenses. And we also have the design decisions and which should not be reverted, and there is a bunch of security and auth related stuff. So overall it is telling me what the code is, and that is what the real use of Claude.md is, which is covering the gather step of our agentic engineering loop. So one quick thing, remember the 200 line rule in its file. So this is very well under 200 and it has far more judgment. So this was never about writing more and making the Claude.md a bigger file. It's about having the right things. So that's the lesson in one screen, and in it gives you the skeleton in about few minutes, and we should absolutely use it. And a great Claude.md, it captures your decisions, the whys, the trade-offs as you would explain it to a new hire on day one. One honest caveat before you go. Remember I said Claude.md is context, not a guarantee. Here is what that means. Claude reads your rules and tries to follow them, but it is a strong suggestion, not a hard wall. Most of the time, that flexibility is fine. But when something absolutely must happen every single time, no exceptions, you need something stronger than a suggestion. That is called a hook, and we get there later in this series. The next video is the direct follow-up to this one. What do you do when your Claude.md gets too big? The answer is rules that only load when they are relevant, plus a file called agents.md. It is that part almost nobody covers. If this helped, the repo is linked below, and a star genuinely helps the channel. And tell me in the comments what is the first rule you would put in your Claude.md. See you in the next one. Take care. Bye.